Okay.
So what comes to mind if I say anxiety or nervousness? I'm sure some of you would probably say communications 180 since we're all in this class. We have that feeling of standing up here, looking at our classmates, feeling that sense of nervousness, while Professor Barry's like, it's obvious you're also recording us. So I'm sure we feel in the same boat. But I wish I was going to talk about speech anxiety, but that's not the case today. I'll be talking about a deeper sense of anxiety, which we also call as shyness. Not as commonly observed as anxiety, but definitely one of the biggest parts of shyness is dealing with anxiety on a daily basis. So in my freshman year, I faced a hard time with shyness. I was that student in the back of the classroom, not saying a word and not doing any class participation. Definitely not the kind of student you want in communications 180. But through my educational journey, moving from Indonesia to the United States, I've definitely been able to overcome my fears as well as anxiety and build my own self-confidence. And today I'm going to be telling to you guys about how my journey has helped me to discover the meaning of open-mindedness as well as independence, which ultimately boosts my self-confidence. So in my freshman year, which was when I moved from Indonesia to the United States, it has really brought me to the idea of open-mindedness. Definitely, the first big part of open-mindedness for me was adjusting to the new environment and making new friends in my new school here in the United States. Just understanding that sense of cultural difference as well as trying to find that common topic to talk about was definitely very difficult for me, especially when I was very shy. However, that didn't stop me from trying to keep looking for new friends as well as trying to find that common ground with one another. I honestly think that through that process, I began to become more interested in other people and actually try to push myself to connect with others. Secondly, is adjusting to the new culture. One of the moments that I really remember was when I was walking down my school in the hallways when I saw someone just waving hi to me when I didn't know who he or she was. It was obviously very weird for me because back in Indonesia, saying hi was not a very common thing, especially to strangers. However, that pushed me out of my comfort zone to be able to reach out to other people and actually get to know them, even though they're strangers. Besides the idea of open-mindedness, the idea of independence really resonated to me, especially throughout my sophomore year, when my parents ended up accompanying me to go back to the United States, and I had to rely on myself. The first big part was when I needed to travel from Indonesia to the United States on my own. To be said that I've never traveled domestically on my own, so traveling internationally was definitely a tough one on my own. Having that fear of suspicion between other people around me, as well as that timidness in myself, it was hard to ask even strangers questions like where the gate was and where location was. Because back in Indonesia, I had to go through a 4-hour plane ride to Hong Kong and do a transit there, where I wasn't really familiar with Hong Kong's airport. So it was definitely tough, and I had to reach out and go out of my shyness to ask other people so that I can figure out where I was going. Secondly, independence has played a big role in me staying in the United States, especially staying with the host parents. Since my parents are not here, I stayed with the host parents, and definitely it was difficult to open up since I didn't know them beforehand. I only knew their name, I didn't even know how they look like. So it definitely was very intimidating to walk into their house and just get to know them and say that I'm gonna be living here for like a year. And ended up being more than a year. But it was hard to go out of my shy spot and to really push myself to get to know other people in that area. Looking back, I would say that it wasn't important where I started. It was more of the growth and the process that I went through. For me, it was through my educational journey, from Indonesia to the United States, and learning the idea of open-mindedness as well as independence, which ultimately boosts my self-confidence. So let me leave you guys with this quote. Do one thing every day that scares you by Eleanor Roosevelt. Because pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is the key